Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season and Women in League round. I'm Renee Gardner, joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. We have 6 weeks left of the regular season and teams are now fighting to make those top 8 spots. The first of our matchups is the Broncos, who face off against a very desperate Roosters side, I should say. First up, let's take a look at the Broncos. Their strong win came at a cost. They lose Martin Tapau, Jesse Arthurs. They're both spending a little bit of time on the sideline. They come up against a very vastly improved Roosters outfit, though. Yeah,
every time I seem to tip the Roosters, they let me down. This week, obviously, a big matchup. It's now or never for the Roosters, but for the Broncos, I should say, they're absolutely flying. They do lose Marty, who adds a lot of impact off the bench there, but the Broncos got so much depth in their arsenal at the moment, and for me, the Broncos just need to stay consistent, injury-free, particularly the last remaining 6 weeks, like you said.
Yeah, we've got a fingers crossed for that little run home. Let's look over the Roosters. They put in a huge effort against the Titans.
Yep.
But this will be one of their toughest competitions yet. It's over at the Gabba. Trent Robertson said he was really excited because he's naming Victor Radley to start again.
Oh, how good. Oh, Victor, the inflictor. It's now or never for the Roosters, isn't it? They have let a lot of people down, and particularly themselves this year, particularly with that roster. They've got stars across the park. But yeah, like I said, it's now or never. They need to start stringing some wins together, and they are a slim chance in making that 8. So we'll have to wait and see how they go from here. But the challenge is not going to be easy. They're coming up against the Broncos, and it's going to be a big task up in the Gabba.
Who would you pick going into this one? As we said, we've seen the Roosters improve a lot over the last couple of weeks, but is it enough against a team that has so much depth?
Well, you look at the Broncos, there could be a tale of complacency when you come up against the Roosters. The Roosters haven't been playing that well. They did have a good win against the Titans last week, so that might change now. You never know. Maybe they've got their wheels turning in the right direction now, and again, maybe they just had a bit of a late start. So it does happen with footy sides in some seasons, but again, it's now or never. They need to beat a very informed Broncos side up in the Gabba, which is not going to be easy.
All right, you sound like you swing to the Broncos on this one?
It's pretty obvious.
You were very good last week, so
I want to go to Broncos.
Follow you in. All right, thanks so much, Josh. Unmissable matchups taking place all weekend. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game, though, you can watch it on Channel 9, Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Kickoff is at 7:50 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season, and it is Women in League round. I'm Renee Gardner. I'm joined by Josh Mansour, who has actually just become a father again with a little girl.
Yeah, little beautiful girl. Mum and Bub are doing great. Not getting much sleep though. I am living off coffee, so yeah, let's see how we go with this one.
Future NRLW star in the making.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll never know. If she wants to do it, I'll push her in the right direction for sure.
Perfect. You got great skills to teach her all the things. All right, well, let's head into this game. It is Friday night, and we head to Tamworth for the West Tigers outfit up against a huge challenge with South. The Tigers are 4 points behind the Bulldogs on the bottom of the ladder. Yep. Scary place to be. This is going to be a really tough task for Tim Sheen's men. Well,
no one wants that dreaded wooden spoon, right? It is a big task, coming up against one of the most attack and potent threats in the league, South Sydney. So, yeah, the Tigers, they just got to try and get together. They've got to come up with a very good game plan to kind of defeat Souths, because Souths isn't going to make it easy for them, that's for sure. And with the troll back now, it just gets harder and harder, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. All right, well, let's go over to Souths. Didn't seem to be much cohesion in their side that they took on the Broncos last week. That was echoed in the press conference. Jason Demetro came out and said they're just not gelling, very individual efforts, very tired. How do you see this playing out? Because this is going to be another big step for them. This could be a bogey team.
Yeah, it could be, 100%. I feel like this game could go either way. Souths could come up with a really good win, or it's going to be a shootout and Tigers actually might get there. But for that, yeah, they are a bit flat at the moment. They did have a very tough schedule early parts of the year, and now with Latrell back, I think it's perfect time for Souths. It's exactly what they need. They need that invigorated energy from Latrell. Everyone talks about his attack, but it's also his talk in defence that really goes a long way. His cover defence is great. He really gets the guys where they need to be, and I feel like it's going to go a long way and win this game. And I know one thing, Latrell loves turning up when it comes against the Tigers.
All right, we're going to pick I'm guessing.
Are you picking the Tigers with that colour, or?
I'm Switzerland. Just by chance I'm in this colour.
I've gone with the buddies.
All right,
bounce back.
Done, because you're in the colour of the South. I see what you did there. Yeah. All right, thank you so much. Unmissable matchups taking place all weekend for the Women in League round. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game, you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season. I'm Renee Gardner and I'm joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. And next up, we're going to take a look at teams looking to make amends for last week in the Storm and the Eels. Melbourne slipped into the fourth spot after being shocked by a very informed Knights outfit. They go into the game minus 4 players. They've got Remus Smith, Tarek Sims, we've got Olam and Asafa Solomono as well too. Huge outs.
Massive outs, particularly those two centres. You know, there's going to be a lot of indecisiveness on the edge there. So for me, they've got to come together real quick because as an edge, you need your back row, your half, your centre and wing all working together. So it is going to add a little bit of disruption there. And of course, Big Nelson out, he's their main go forward. You know, he's a big body, he's hard to handle, and it's going to be the massive shoes, not literally, but even positionally to fill.
Okay, I'm interested why you know your shoe size, but that's all right. It's definitely going to even the field up here as well too. But let's go over to the Eels. They're missing their suspended stars as well too. In Sevo and RCG last week, you could really notice the difference without them on the field.
Definitely.
They go into this game as well too. They've got a really daunting run home. You've got Storm, you've got Broncos, and they go into the Panthers. It's a tough run into the finals. They really need this win to stay in this top 8.
It is a tough run, but saying that, you can the flip side of that, they're going to be battle-hardened. You know, they'll be ready to play that final style footy. They are coming up to one of the best teams this week in the Melbourne Storm, particularly down in Melbourne. They're very, very hard to beat. It's a bit of a fortress, so when you look at these two teams coming up against each other, it's always a bash-up too, you know, particularly through the middle. I feel like Parramatta can unsettle the Storm. The Storm like to defend very structured. Parramatta do possess a lot of unstructured footy, particularly coming off the back of, you know, their hard-running middles. So for me, it is a bit of an even affair now with those outs with the Melbourne Storm. So it's a flip of the coin. I'll throw it to you, guards.
No, I told you I'm Switzerland. I'm here to get your opinion.
I'll probably go with the Storm. Very rare to see Storm losing 2 in a row.
Yeah, you just feel bad because of the whole you picked the Knights over them last week. But that's cool.
Exactly
we'll stick with
right.
that. All right, thank you so much. Unmissable matchups are taking place all weekend for women in league round. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game, remember you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season. I'm Renee Gardner and I'm joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. Women in league round and Saturday afternoon with the Raiders taking on the Knights. You loved the Knights last week, but let's look at the Green Machine first. A heartbreaking Golden Point loss last week for them as well too. That was against a very formidable Warriors outfit as well too. Ricky Stewart's still going to roll out that same 17. What difference do they need to change their game to be able to flip it for this game?
I don't feel like they played overly bad last week. You know, it was always going to be a big game coming up against the Warriors down in New Zealand. So saying that, they did almost clinch it at the end there with Jackie White running away to sprint that try. But saying that, they do come up against the Knights side that are playing with a bit of form lately as well. But I know one thing, no one likes playing down in Canberra. So for the Raiders, they are playing back at home in front of their home fans. If they get their middles going forward for them, I feel like it really give the outside backs a lot of joy.
Off camera, we were talking about their defence. That was something that you thought might need a little work going into this game.
Yeah, on the edges there. I feel like they were a bit indecisive on the weekend, but coming up against the Warriors. They didn't concede all their points down that left channel. They like playing man-on-man defence, so saying that if there's a block shape on the halfback, the centre would like to hold for that half to release and go man-on-man, so centre on centre, wing on winger. And with that, sometimes if the halfback gets held up by that back row, it kind of leaves the centre stranded, and then there leaves a massive hole through that inside shoulder. So there is a lot of times where the Raiders are faced with that, and particularly with Kalen Ponga at the back, who's going to be a big threat. Yeah,
all right, well, let's go over to the Knights. Well and truly switch gears with those guys and that man, Kalen Ponga. He's been back in form. He seems really comfortable with his game. He's back to that scary good footwork and ball work as well too. A lot of confidence taking a big scalp like the Storm, and then they're coming in against a gritty Raiders side, which obviously they're going to take advantage of that defence line that you've spoken about.
I feel like if the Knights get the Raiders in an arm wrestle, I feel we'll go a long way in winning this game. They do possess a lot of threat on the edges. You got Gagai, you got Bradman Best coming off the back fence, and with obviously Kalen Ponga sweeping at the back and sweeping through the middle with those late offloads, it's going to cause the Raiders a lot of havoc. So for me, if they come with their good game plan, very disciplined, hard-nosed game plan, and win the middle, I think it'll go a long way and win this game for the Knights.
All right, so you're going to stick with the Knights with this one? You feel like you're going to go
you know what? Off camera, we did speak about this. I wasn't quite too sure, but I'm going to go with Canberra just because they're playing at home this week.
And it's going to be frosty.
It is going to be very cold. Good luck.
All right. He's called it. Unmissable matchups taking place all weekend in the Women in League round. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game, you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season and Women in League round. I'm Renee Gartner, joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. Next up, we're going to have a look at Dragons and Manly. They head down to Wynn Stadium. Josh and George are going to be looking to spoil a couple of milestones. We've got 100 games for Lachlan Croker and big 300 for Daly Cherry Evans.
Massive.
You've played a lot of footy with Cherry.
And against, played against him in the under 20s. He was always one of the most competitive halves in the game, particularly in the NRL. You know, he's the heart and soul of the Manly Seagulls, and I feel like he just gets better with age. You know, he's losing a bit of hair on the top there, so not a bit of alarming signs there. But again, with Cherry Evans, he's just unbelievable. He's playing out of his skin for Origin and, of course, at the Australian level. And I was actually very fortunate enough to play with him with the highest honour.
All right, well, Dragons are going to be looking to spoil this day for him, as I said, that key milestone. They're a different side every single week. Like, normally you might get a hot and cold, but it just feels like every time they play, we're seeing something different sort of transpire. What team are you expecting to turn up for this game?
With the Dragons, they start fast. They're out of the gates, they play really aggressive, and it's just holding that kind of intensity for the whole game, which kind of lets them down. Like, they come out of the blocks, they come out firing, they run the ball hard, and for me, they kind of lose their way towards the back end of the game. And, you know, Ben Hunt really needs to step up here. They always rely on him every single week. He always has to carry that team on his shoulders, but it's no different this week. All right, and
Manly, as we said, the milestones aside, another team that really need this win if they want to stay in that fight for that egg.
Well, for last week, for Manly supporting yourself, you're stressing watching that.
Two different halves.
Stressing watching that. But with Manly, they do have the attacking prowess to pick the St George Dragons apart. Yeah. The biggest alarming thing was that complacency towards the back end of the game. Yeah, they had a couple of guys go down, so they were a bit short on the bench there, but that's no excuse. If you want to make that top eight and play finals footy, you really got to defend your line and not end the game like the way they did last week. So, they got fresh troops back on deck. They are coming against St George down in Wollongong, which won't be easy. And like you said, St George will be looking to spoil the party for the Manly Seagulls.
All right, you're going to take a pick.
I'm going to go for Manly, your Birds, and hopefully they can do something special.
All right, thanks so much, Josh. Missable matchups taking place all weekend for the Women in League round. So if you want to see this match live in Wollongong, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't catch the game, you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky, New Zealand, KO, and kickoff is at 5:30 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season. I'm Renee Gartner and I'm joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. Saturday night wraps up at the foot of the mountains with the Panthers taking on the Sharks, and the Panthers will be looking to rain on the Sharks finals parade. Nathan Cleary was so classy last week. Do you expect there's going to be anything different? They're back at the foot of the mountains. It's going to be cold. It's going to be dewy. It's going to be their perfect conditions. I'm
scared for the Sharks in this one, I'm not going to lie. I feel like the Panthers have just hit another gear, particularly with Nathan's inclusion in the side. They are peaking at the right time. They're pointing in the right direction. They are up for a big opportunity to get a three-peat, in my opinion. And, Saturday night in Penrith, like you said, it's dewy, it's cold, and they love that arm wrestle style footy. So one thing the Sharks need in this game, they're going to have to go toe-to-toe with this Panthers side.
How much of a difference does it make playing out at the foot of the mountains? I know you played a lot of footy out there. When it does get dewy and cold and hand on ball, how does it change your game plan? Well,
it just reduces your attacking, style. So obviously with the ball more dewy, field possession is really, really, really important. And you're coming up against the king when it's Nathan Cleary, who has the best kicking game in the game. So that's going to add a massive strength to the Panthers this week. And for the Sharkies, their back three is going to be really, really tested.
All right, well, let's look over to the Sharkies. And although they didn't get the 2 points against Manly, their second half was quite strong. They came out firing, and Craig Fitzgibbon was very excited about that. How important is that they stitched two of those back halves together?
Oh, and really important. Tale of two halves, right? So with the Sharks, they have been wobbling the last couple of weeks. There are a few alarming signs, if they want to stay in the eight, they need to win these kind of games. And there is a bit of a stat out there where they're barely beaten any top eight sides. So it can end this week, but they're going to have to come up with their A game to beat the Panthers.
We know what's happened because you've been on the bad end of a bet with the Panthers getting upset.
Just remind everyone remind me as well. I will not be betting. I will not be doing any more bets. You heard it from me first.
All right, so you're going to stick with Panthers on this one.
I'm sticking with the Panthers, and I feel like they'll really come home strong with this one.
All right, thank you very much, Josh. There is unmissable matchups taking place all weekend for the Women in League round. If you want to see this match live at the foot of the mountains, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game, you can watch it on Foxtel, Sky New Zealand, or KO. Kickoff is at 7:35 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season, and it's Women in League round. I'm Renee Gardner and I'm joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. Sunday kicks off with the Bulldogs, who are up against the Dolphins, fresh off a bye. Josh, the Bulldogs were missing 15 players out of their top squad last week, but they're getting maybe 7 or 8 back this week as well too. Is that going to make for a disjointed side because they haven't played much together, or is it going to bring a fresh face?
It could go either way. For me, it's got to be the simpler the game plan, the better for the Bulldogs. Like you said, a lot of guys coming in, going out. For me, the Bulldogs got to try and stay consistent, particularly with their game plan. They just got to play simple footy up the middle, no silly offloads, no poor errors coming out of yardage and putting pressure on themselves. And hopefully they can beat a Dolphins side lacking a bit of confidence as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, back to basics for the Bulldogs, right?
100%.
Yeah, well, let's look over to the Dolphins. Coach Wayne Bennett has relented and he's got Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow back into fullback.
Beautiful.
He formed a great combination with dummy half in Jeremy Marshall-King as well too earlier in the year.
Yes.
That combination back as well too, is that going to be enough to spark this Dolphins?
I feel like it can. Like, they definitely help that side get to where they are, but obviously with a few injuries at the back end of the season, they have dropped out of the 8. But Hammer is their, he's their X factor. He brings the excitement, he brings the energy, and with Jeremy Marshall-King lurking around dummy half and going when there's a quick play the ball, there's no one catching the Hammer when he's in open space. So massive threats through the middle, and the Bulldogs are a bit vulnerable in the middle as well. So it's going to be a good matchup. Pretty even at the moment, but we'll have to, it's going to be an exciting game to watch.
And this is where you enter what you're going to pick.
Yeah, so the Bulldogs have signed Liam Knight as well, I heard. He'll be a massive inclusion this week for the Bulldogs if he does play. But I am liking the Dolphins just off the back of Jeremy Marshall-King and the Hammer. I feel like they're just going to be too dangerous for the Bulldogs.
All right, fins up.
Let's go.
All right, thanks so much, Josh. Unmissable matchups taking place all weekend for the Women in League round. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. If you can't get to the game though, you can watch it across Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO, and kick-off is at 2 p.m. Welcome to the NRL previews for round 22 of the 2023 season and Women in League round. I'm Renee Gardner and I'm joined by Josh Mansour to unpack all the games for this weekend. The final game of the round season All Queensland affair. We're wrapping up the weekend of Rugby League as the Titans and Cowboys go head-to-head. Now, interim coach for the Titans, Jimmy Lenahead, said at the press conference post-game that the boys have been redlining at training, which has now sort of folded off onto the field. We're starting to see them quite tired and fatigued. What is that like as a team when you're at this stage of the season where you really need to fight to win, but you're already at that capacity?
Nothing's worse than going out on the footy field feeling flat, heavy-legged, feel like you're just trotting in mud and quicksand. That is the worst thing for a player, and it's a bit of alarming signs if the coaches conceded that. But I know one thing, they were very, very flat against the Roosters last week. Roosters absolutely blew them off the park, and I thought the Titans had a really good matchup against the Roosters last week. They were very disappointed, conceding 30 points as well. So there are a bit of alarming signs, and for me, the Titans do have a lot of attack in their arsenal, but they're coming up against the Cowboys side that just got much of an attacking threat, so it's going to be a pretty good game.
And a bad time to come up against the Cowboys because we're starting to see them sort of get better each week as well too. They're hunting 7 in a row, which we weren't even talking about at this start of the year as well too. They've got to do it without the strike power though of Jeremiah Nanai as well. I
went through something similar when I was at the Panthers in 2017. We had a very, very slow start, and then once the middle of the season hit, we just went on a massive winning streak, and it's just a shot of adrenaline just up in the team, and everyone just kept on getting massive momentum, and it's very hard to beat when you come up against a side like that, particularly against the Cowboys where they have so many guns. They've got Nano, like you said, you've got Chad Townsend now steering the ship, being more vocal, being more commanding, wanting the ball, and you've got the outside backs who just got so many points in them. So for me, like with Nanai out, it is disappointing for the Cowboys, but I still feel like they're a massive threat, and Jason Tamalolo back as well is going to be massive through the middle.
All right, so I'm definitely thinking you're swaying towards the Cowboys.
I'm swaying with the Cowboys, purely off just the momentum. I feel like it's all going towards the Cowboys, and at the moment for the Titans, I feel like they're projecting down. So big win for the Cowboys coming up.
All right, well, thank you very much, Josh. We really appreciate you joining us for a special Women in League round.
We love the Women in League round. Thank you so much for all the ladies out there that contribute to the game, and particularly my mum and my beautiful wife and my 2 lovely daughters as well. So all the best, everyone.
And your co-pilot.
Of course.
Yeah, there we go. All right, thank you so much. Unmissable multiple matchups taking place all weekend. If you want to see this match live, head to nrl.com/tickets. And if you can't get to this game, you can watch it on Channel 9, Foxtel, Sky New Zealand or KO. Kickoff is at 4:05 p.m.